lovelies, how's it going? So in last week's video, I designed two brand new channel mascots, a duck called Pumpkin and a cat with paint paws, who I could not decide a name for. So you guys gave me loads of amazing suggestions. It was so hard to choose, but I put a poll up of my top 4 favorites, and you guys overwhelmingly voted for Penelope. So Penelope and Pumpkin it is. And I absolutely love that name because it's got the alliteration. They both start with the P. And I also love the name for her as well because it's Penelope Paintballs. But now the real challenge lies ahead. The plan is to bring this duo to life through animation so that I can create a short clip of them which I can use as my new channel intro. Since the one of Kitty Corn that I'm using at the moment is one that's licensed, which means that anyone on YouTube can use that same intro. But I'm going to be honest, I have absolutely no idea how to animate. So the big question is, can someone who has never animated before actually learn how to animate for free in just a few weeks? I guess we'll find out. Now, when I first started looking into animation, I very quickly realised that there is so much to learn. So there's not going to be a finished animation today, guys. I know, I'm sorry. This is going to be a series of videos. We have to learn to walk before we can run. So let's rewind the tape and start from the very beginning. What even is animation? Basically, it's just a bunch of still images shown one after the other, each one slightly different from the last. Those images could be digital, they could be hand-drawn, they could be plasticine sculptures, or even just objects or people posing. I can literally animate myself, okay? I have no idea what that will look like. Most movies are usually 24 frames a second, which if it's hand-drawn, that means 24 separate drawings for just 1 second of action. No wonder animators notoriously live off coffee. Luckily for us, you can often get away with 12 frames a second, and it still looks smooth enough. So how can we learn how to animate? Well, my initial searching, of course, led me to a ton of really pricey books, courses, and software. But after a bit more digging, I did find some free video tutorials here on YouTube, as well as some digital tools which look really promising. It's worth finding an animator on here whose videos you really vibe with. I really enjoy watching Aaron Blazer's videos. He worked for Disney for, I think it was over 30 years. But there's honestly so many channels out there. There's definitely something for everyone. So what can we use to animate with? Well, of course, there is the old style pencil and notepad, but if you've got access to a device such as a tablet or a PC or even on your phone, there are lots of free apps and programs out there. There's Pencil 2D, which works on Microsoft or iOS, I do believe. It does look like this one is super user-friendly. It basically looks like Microsoft Paint, but for animating. If you want something that you can create something a bit more technical with, but might be a bit more challenging to learn how to use, there is Blender 2D. A YouTuber called Lavalier actually compared those two programs in one of her videos, so I shall pop a link for that below. If you'd like to give 3D animation a try, there is an Aardman app. They are the creators of Wallace and Gromit, and I have tried that one out. My daughter's used that one as well. It is super user-friendly and really fun to use. Then I stumbled across another free app called FlipaClip, which is suitable for Android or iOS. Much like the Aardman app, it is really fun to use. When you first open the app, it does give you a fun and easy to follow tutorial. This one was my favorite out of the lot, so this is the one that I am going to be going with today. So while further researching animation, I also stumbled across Disney's 12 principles of animation. These are basically the golden rules that really bring drawings to life. The channel Alan Becker Tutorials has a fantastic video explaining all 12, and he's drawn amazing animations to demonstrate each one. So I shall link that in the description as well. I'm not going to cover all 12 right now because it's honestly an overwhelming list and you might fall asleep, but I shall talk about them as I work through this project. But let's talk about 2 of them now, because the first step is character design. So one of the principles is appeal, which means characters should be interesting, cute, charismatic. So we have kind of already done that stage. When we designed these two last week, they're in a cute kawaii style. Those two words basically mean the same thing. They do have a bit of a backstory. Pumpkin the duck was very different to his siblings because he had these little leaf shoots growing out of his head, and he is actually a full-grown duck, but he never kind of grew out of that chick form, which is why he was adopted by paint-pawed Penelope, whose paws actually magically make paint all the time. The next principle is called solid drawing, which means characters should feel 3D with consistent volume and weight. So to do this, we need to draw them from lots of different angles and in lots of different poses with different expressions. It can even help to sculpt them or even study from real animals. And thankfully, I actually do have some footage from the kitty cafe when we visited there. And I've also got some footage of some little ducklings that I got when I went to a farm place back in spring. So I can use those to guide me. So if I just set up my overhead camera so that you can see my tablet. My husband used this camera last week and had messed with the settings, and now when I press record, it's not recording. Okay, I'm not going to be using the overhead camera. I'll just screen record. So this is Penelope and Pumpkin, which I drew last week, but I have actually changed that paw a little bit because one of you guys did bring to my attention that her paw was kind of really stubby, which is kind of how kawaii cats are drawn, but I could totally see what they meant. So I've changed it to a slightly more Disney style paw. And I think that that actually works better because she leaves those paint paw prints everywhere she goes, and it didn't really work if she just had like a little triangle for a paw. Then I made a start on trying to draw these guys from a different angle. I did try to make the shapes a bit more 3D rather than just circles and squares, but this drawing really was a process of trial and error. I did actually flip the canvas this time because when I drew the last one, I didn't do that. And it's always a really great way of kind of looking at it with fresh eyes. Then I was just sampling the colors from previous illustrations. I've got them in the same document, they're just in different layers. I'm actually using Penup for this, which is another free app that I know you can get on Samsung devices. I tried to keep her in the same style as the original drawing, but there are perhaps a few differences. She's maybe a bit more rounded, but this is why it's really important to practice drawing them from lots of angles, because you find that it is actually really hard to keep them completely consistent. Then for this next one, I wanted to draw her like the little loaf cat that I painted last week because I thought that was just so cute. And of course, because Pumpkin is a duck, he is nibbling the corner of the bread and the crumbs, and she's looking a little bit annoyed about it. I didn't realise at first that I'd actually drawn one of her eyes way too far across, but then when I stepped away from it and came back, I was like, oh my gosh, that eye is like so far to one side. So I corrected that. Sometimes when you're looking at something for a few hours, you just actually, I don't know, can't see it anymore. Now this one, I actually forgot to start the time lapse at the very start. We've got Pumpkin jumping on a paint tube and the paint is going splat onto Penelope's face. And again, she's a little bit annoyed about it. Now, when you're practicing this, you don't actually need to fully render them as I have here with all of the colors and the shading and the highlights. The reason why I've done that is because I thought that these might make cute stickers. I'm hoping to try and put a sticker sheet together. I don't know if it'll go to plan, but I'm gonna try. Then there was this one of Pumpkin sat warming his bottom in a cup of tea, and Penelope sat next to him eating a chocolate donut. I felt like when I was drawing this one, I was really starting to get the hang of it, like drawing these two characters. Now, I don't know if her ears look a little bit odd that they haven't got the pink triangles in them. It's because her ears are actually back while she's enjoying that donut. But yeah, I'm really happy with those. So I want to practice one more today with you guys, and I thought that I can show you the process. So this is the app that I'm using. It's called Penup. And as you can see, I've got all of the layers here of all of the different drawings. So I want to create one more of these today. So I'm going to start a new layer. I'm not using like solid black, I'm using slightly grey for all of these drawings because it's just a little bit softer. So I'm thinking for this one, Pumpkin has knocked over a tub of Mod Podge or any generic glue, and he's got himself a little bit stuck, and Penelope is helping him out of the glue situation. So let's start off with that pot of glue on its side. I don't think we want it just completely side on because that's a bit boring. Let's put it a little bit at an angle. It's going to be a bit more challenging, but I think it will look better Okay, I'm just gonna put my glasses on. I feel like I've got an eyelash in my eye as well, which is not helpful. Okay, let's just go down a little bit because I like to be very close to my work. I'm actually gonna use that jar to help me. We'll start with an oval. Now, if you actually hold that down, it turns into a perfect oval. Now my style definitely is not the most efficient way of doing things that you'll find on the internet by any means. I just thought that I would show you my process from start to finish. And then we've got the glue pouring out like that. This is way too big, let's go a bit smaller. This is what I love about digital art, is you can just move stuff around. If I was drawing this on paper, we'd be in a pickle. Now that does look a little bit too realistic at the minute, but we will simplify it when we do the next lot of line work over the top. I guess I'm gonna need the lid, maybe. Then we're gonna have Pumpkin. Perhaps she's pulling him from like underneath his wings and his legs are kind of stretching out because they're stuck in the glue. His legs are like ridiculously stretched and his body is kind of a little bit stretched out as well because she's pulling. I have no idea how I'm going to draw Penelope though. She needs to be in kind of a squatting position, I guess, to try and use her legs to really pull him up. Maybe she's leaning back slightly. Perhaps he should be leaning back slightly. It's a bit easier to kind of pull backwards than straight up. So her head is basically a circle. It's got a little bit of a shape to it. Would her shoulders would be kind of up, I guess. It's one of those things sometimes it's really hard to exactly visualize and you just have to try it and see what happens. Okay, he would probably be a little bit closer to her chest because it's just easier to get strength when it's closer to you. The glue would probably be kind of stretching upwards. She would be kind of like, and she would have her eyes scrunched up because she's putting in lots of force. Let's just move the glue a little bit closer because we kind of want it to work as a whole. Maybe it should be about there actually. Now let's flip this, make sure it's looking okay flipped. So if I just go click on the layer, press flip horizontal, you can have a look. Yeah, I think that's okay. We could perhaps put some little sweat droplets because she's really sweating. What face would Pumpkin be pulling? He's maybe just kind of neutral, just like, oh, he needs his little feathers. I don't know, I feel like this space here is a bit empty, but I'm not really sure what we could put in that space. I mean, you could have something in the background, but I don't know if it's gonna make it a bit busy. I was thinking maybe like another jar or something, like a jar of paintbrushes or maybe a plant. Okay, I think that will do for now. So what I'm going to do now is reduce the opacity of this one and start another new layer. And I'm going to increase the line weight over here. You can reduce opacity of the line as well if you want to. For some reason, the cutest characters always have the biggest foreheads. I think it's kind of like a baby head shape. So again, her ears are back, but I might just put a peak of the pink into the ear on this one. Now, I try not to do like pointy lines like that when I'm doing kawaii style. I sort of do a rounded edge on every single corner in the drawing. It can help to completely rotate the canvas to suit the movement of your hand a bit better. I don't know if I've drawn him a bit too big here actually, because in that picture he's quite small on her head. Oh well, artistic license. Okay, then I'm gonna go down to a slightly thinner line for the smaller details. It can be really helpful to keep a reference photo up as well. His eyes, just very kind of like, I don't know what the word would be, but they're kind of expressionless. But the question is, do I write glue on this or is it just obviously glue? Because if I write glue on it, we're quite limited and we're limiting our audience. We maybe actually need to draw some of the glue pouring out here. So let's erase that and it's kind of pouring out. Okay, so we are done with that base layer. So let's get rid of that. Now it's time to add a splash of color. So I'll make that layer visible and just select the gray, start a new layer, just drag that behind that one so we don't overlap the line work. Grey, and then it goes underneath her whiskers. Now, I don't really know a quicker way of adding colour other than just going around the edges of the colour that I want to do and then pressing fill. But if you look closely, it does leave this, which you then just have to go back over. So her stripes kind of line up with her little eyebrow dots, and she has 3 stripes on her back, but we can't really see those that much from this angle. Then she needs some paint paws. Well, we need to contrast with the duck slightly, so let's go for blue and purple. Then we need pumpkin yellow. Then we need blue for the jar. Let's get that from this jar. She has like 3 little lines. I only got room for 2 lines over this side. Okay, now I shall show you how I do the shadows and highlights. I actually start another layer and I go to pens. Oh, I've been using, just in case you wanted to know, I've been using Calligraphy Tools brush pen as my main pen for this. I just love that one. But then I go on to markers, flat tip, and I select a dark blue-grey, and then I just use that to create shadows. So I always do, because I'm right-handed, I always do the shadows in the bottom left corner and the highlights on the top right. It just feels more natural that way. If you're left-handed, it probably feels more natural to do it the other way. And I actually treat everything like a sphere. So her head is kind of spherical. So I do a kind of round highlight and then another one, kind of like a shiny apple. And anything that's round, I just kind of do the same thing. I'm definitely going to need to do a bit more work into this jar to make it look like see-through glass. But then I get that calligraphy tool brush pen back and just do all of the edges on the top right-hand side. If you want it to look a bit more shiny or juicy, like the paint, you want to do kind of like a line and then a dot and then a dot, like kind of vary lines and dots, and that gives it, I don't know why, it gives it a bit more of a wet, juicy look. Or something that's really shiny like glass would also have that. You have to be careful with it though, because it can start to look more like stitches. Just keep trying. But that gives you an idea of how I draw these guys. And I think that we have drawn them from pretty much every angle with a few different expressions. So now it's time to load up the animation app and have a go on there. Okay, so this is FlipaClip. So I had a very, very brief go on it the other day and made this. That's definitely not quite intro ready. But I was just seeing what it could do. But the only thing is, in order for it to be free, it does have adverts. You can upgrade, I think it's for £5 a month. Because if you go, so there's a little diamond in the corner. Yeah, here we are. Monthly, £5.49 a month, or £26.99 for the year. Or start a 7-day free trial. I think I might do that and then probably cancel it once I've done the animation. Yay, I've unlocked unlimited. So this is actually very similar to use as a penup. You've got some tools over here on the right, which you can actually put anywhere you like. And then you've got your frames at the bottom. So let's just do a really basic bouncing ball, because that's pretty much what everyone else does. It's like the easiest animation to demonstrate. So I might actually just draw the path that I want the bouncy ball to take. Oh my gosh. So it would kind of arc like that. And then I'm going to start a new layer and I'm going to draw the ball on that. Starting here. Now on the next frame, this is called onion skinning. So that means that you can still see the previous frames on the frame that you're working on. So you can see where you need to draw next. So then we can draw a frame here, draw another frame here, and we can draw our final frame here. And then we can go back and do the in-between frames. So this is called pose to pose, if I now fill in those frames. Or if I just drew them one after the other, that would be called straight ahead. I can actually, if I click the first frame, if I want to add one in between, I just press add to the right. And it has given us another frame there. But now I can't see the onion skin ahead, so let's just edit that. Because if you're going to do pose to pose, you need to see front and back of you need to see ahead and behind in the onion skin. So, okay, so now I can see all of them. Now I'm just going to fill in the blanks. So let's add another frame to the right. Now, you may have noticed that I'm squashing and squeezing this ball as it reaches the bounce point and then squashes to bounce. That is actually another principle called squash and stretch, because a lot of objects or characters come to life so much more if you squash and stretch them. But you do need to keep their overall volume roughly the same. Right, let's see how this is looking so far if we press play. That's looking good, but what we need to do is remove that arc layer now. yeah, that's looking good. Now what we can do is we can actually turn this into Pumpkin if we want. So starting with frame 1, let's draw his little details. He would probably have his little feet forwards, then he would stretch his legs ready for the landing. Stretch his legs even more. Then his leg is just kind of squashed there. Then it's stretching out and moving forwards, ready for his next land. Let's see how that looks. Okay, he has well, he has 1 foot anyway. Let's now give him his beak and we'll give him an extra foot. Okay, next let's give him his eyes and his little feather things. So he's kind of looking down at where he's gonna land, and his feather things are maybe like swooshing back a little bit. Let's kind of stretch them out and back. So another principle is exaggeration, to really push movements beyond kind of their natural limits, to really clarify what is going on. So I'm gonna really stretch these, and then I'm gonna really squeeze them at the bottom of the fall. Then they're really gonna be stretched backwards, and then they kind of slow down a little bit and straighten up at the top. Let's see how that looks. Yay, it's Pumpkin. He's not the most detailed, but that's super cute. Should we add a splash of colour? So we've got a colour wheel. Okay, so what we're gonna need to do here is start a new layer, and we're gonna need to move it underneath. I think it might have automatically made the new layer on the next frame then. Let's just check. Yeah. So it's automatically realised that I'm gonna need that extra layer on the next frame. So that is brilliant, because I was thinking then I'm gonna have to like add a new layer to every frame. Like, oh, that's gonna take ages. They've thought that through. Now, something that I should have actually done here is slow in and out, which means as Pumpkin is at the top of the arc, he should be moving more slowly, and then the bounce is quick, badoof, and then slow out. That just has a more realistic look to it. So I can easily fix that by just going back in and adding another frame. So I need to add that frame there. I don't know if I can see a pipette tool. Ah, yes, you just go on colour and there it is. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so it's got a bit more of a slow in and out now, and he speeds up on the bounce. And the way that we've actually drawn his leaf feather movements as well is another one of those principles, which is a follow through and overlapping action, which is that things don't stop all at once, they kind of continue to move. So if you had anything like clothes or a tail or hair, it would kind of keep moving independently of the character. And we've also got another principle, which is anticipation. When Pumpkin is getting ready to land, he is putting his feet forwards in anticipation for that landing. So it's anything that your character might do in preparation for a movement. So when Penelope bats over that cup of tea, she would first move her paw back, and then she would swipe the tea over. So the next step for our main animation is actually going to be storyboarding, which is staging, which is when we need to present an idea clearly on the page to really set the scene and tell the story of what is going on just with a quick visual. And storyboarding is an important step towards that. So let's go back and start a new animation, because I'm going to do my storyboard on here. Okay, so I probably want to draw about 5 or 6 kind of stages. This is going to be very rough, okay? We are going to have, why is that so thick again? We are going to have the desk. That's not very straight line, is it? Where's that ruler? Ooh, that's better. Okay, and on there is going to be a canvas. We've got a pot of paintbrushes and a plant. So that's setting the scene, and we're going to need that the same on every frame. So let's copy and paste onto every frame. And then Penelope is going to walk in. I really should have done that in a lighter colour because there's, oh, there we go. Okay, you can actually reduce the opacity of the layer. Yay, let's do that. Oh, it's done it on all of them. Brilliant. Okay, then we'll add a new layer. This is going to be Penelope walking in. Don't judge, okay? She's walking in with Pumpkin on her back. She goes up to the canvas and she's leaving little paint paws behind her, paint paw prints behind her as she goes. Then she goes up to the canvas and she paints Emma Naseby with her front paws. Pumpkin has hopped up here. Then she turns around and paints with her back paws art, looking very kind of like happy with, pleased with herself. And Pumpkin's now down here like bouncing up and down, very excited. Then she sits by the cup of tea in front of the plant with Pumpkin on her head as shown, and she anticipates that movement by putting her paw up, ready to bat. Then she bats it over, the tea spills, then she looks straight at the camera and well, she kind of like closes her eyes, looking very pleased with herself. And Pumpkin, of course, goes. So let's actually remove the onion skinning from, it sounds so gross, doesn't it? But it's what it's called. If we remove the onion skin, then we can kind of see better what's going on. So they're walking in, she paints M&A's bee with her front paws, Art with her back paws. They sit next to the tea, she gets ready to bat it over. Over it goes, and Pumpkin goes. So we've got a storyboard, but unfortunately that is where I'm going to have to leave this animation for today, and we will carry on working on it next time. I have really enjoyed working on this project. When I was a kid, I kind of always really wanted to be an animator when I grew up, but just never really pursued it. So I am really looking forward to trying to animate these two. But yeah, you'll have to let me know if you've given animation a try in the past, or if you'd like to give it a try, and what would you really like to bring to life through an animation. And also, if you've got any tips for me, then they are always very much appreciated. I might carry on with this next week, or I might break it up a little bit and do something a bit different, but I'll definitely be picking this up again very soon. So I shall see you next week. I haven't really got anywhere to roll away to when this zoomed out. I'll just, bye.